Women are being unalived by men, and guess who is also unaliving men? The men. I know, but you guys don't want to look at the fact.
Here's the thing, when men are violent towards other men, it's usually random. It's not personal, it's just two men having an argument and one gets violent. Women, however, when they experience violent crime, are experiencing violent crimes from people they already know. These are men that more often than not, y'all choose to associate with.
No, it's their fathers. What are you talking about? It's their fathers. Their fathers, number one. That's number one, most likely, that the father. If I had $1 for every time a man tried to paint himself out to be a victim, or men trying to paint men out to be a victim, I'd be richer than 2 Elon Musks, right? Because men are constantly trying to make themselves out to be the victims, always. And they do this in a way, they try to weaponize the same rhetoric that women use to explain what's happening to them against women. And they act as if that women can do the same things to men that men can do to women in this society. In general, in the unperfect world, but in a different world, yeah, women could do the same things to men in theory, I guess, but not the way that our society is set up currently, right? But listening to men talk about how women are sexist, like, stop. Calling a woman sexist is like calling a black person racist. Like, women aren't sexist. They can't even be sexist. How that doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense. Like, on its face, it's dumb to call a woman sexist. If at best, a woman would be just responding to the things that men have done to women, at best. So you wouldn't even call that sexist. Like, I couldn't classify that as sexist. And also, they don't have any real systemic power to hurt men. So again, I wouldn't call it sexist. It has to be something else, because words have meanings. And as a black person, I would hate for somebody to say that I was racist if I were to say that I didn't like white T people. I would hate to, because if a white T person says that they hate me, that's completely different than if I say I hate them. It doesn't hold the same weight. That's what I'm saying. And it's coming from two different places. Mine is reactive. My hate is coming from the harm that white people have done to my people. And I'm not saying that I hate white people, but I'm saying, like, if I were to say that, my hate would be coming from a response. It would be a trauma response to what white people have done to me and men and people like me. But if you flip that around, what reason do white people have to hate black people? Right? They have no reason to hate black people. I'm not talking about an individual white person, which it really doesn't matter on that level, because again, that would be stupid. Even as an individual, to hate a whole group of people because of their race, or even not because of their race, but let's say you were white and you grew up in a black neighborhood and black people hurt you. So you were harmed by black people the majority of the time, because we know crime is a crime of proximity. Violence is a crime of proximity typically. So imagine imagine a white person says that they hate black people at that point. I still wouldn't let you off the hook with that. I wouldn't be like, well, I mean, they were harmed by nothing but black people, so that makes sense. It's like, no, you still have to look wider than your neighborhood. You know what I mean? You have to look outside of your little microcosm, and then talk about it on, in its totality. And if you can't do that, then you can't say, I hate white people, I hate, but whatever the case may be. But if you belong to the oppressed group, you are well within your rights to hate the oppressor. I'm not one of those people that say we shouldn't hate anybody. I ain't Martin Luther King. I don't give a fuck. Yeah, if you want to hate your oppressor, have at it. I don't care. I don't think it's, because when the oppressed hate the oppressors, it creates boundaries. It creates safety for the oppressed. Hate is only reserved for the oppressed. It's never reserved for the oppressor. When I hate, I'm protected because I stay away. Me hating my oppressor keeps me away from my oppressor. I don't want to have anything to do with them. I want to insulate and isolate myself. And my insulation and isolation does not harm them at all, right? But if white people hate black people, or if men hate women, the oppressors who have the power hate the oppressed who have little to no power, it hurts us. If you guys say, oh, well, we don't want to have anything to do with you, now that means we don't get to go to school. That means we don't get good paying jobs. That means we don't get loans from the bank to get houses. That means we don't get houses. They just don't sell us the house. Like, that's how that's why those two things are different. If I say I hate them, I still got to get my food from them. I still got to pay. I still got to get my electricity from Con Edison. I still got to pay for my cable through Comcast or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Wherever you get your cable from, I don't get cable, but you know what I mean? I still have to have a cell phone through T-Mobile. I still have to patronize white companies and white businesses. I can't stop. I still got to work for the system. It's good. That's how I was going to, I'm talking about for the majority of people, right? So me hating does not hurt the other group. Women hating men does not hurt men. Men hating women, though, completely different story.
Let's get this straight. Words online are not violence. I know like your feelings are really hurt, so it feels like something is dying inside of you, but words are not violence, all right? Women are being unalived by men, and guess who is also unaliving men? The men. I know, but you guys don't want to look at the facts. Sometimes I wish that I was this stupid because it would make life a lot easier. Because y'all don't even address the violence that's going on between men. Actually, what y'all do is you guys like to generalize with races when it comes to man-on-man violence, which I find interesting. Because again, you guys have to divide to put yourselves on top of each other, instead of just being like, oh, we are the problem.
Also, when they divide by the races, they typically do that because they're like, usually that's racist white men who do that, who say black people are the most racist. That's because racism and patriarchy are inextricably linked.
Historically, men have always been violent. War is very normal for you guys. Slaughtering people is normal, I get it. In your delusional fantasies, you wish you were one of the cool warriors. But you are just a dude on TikTok. And this cycle just continues to repeat itself. Like, you guys go to war for older rich men who are in control of you. Who's the problem though? The men, right? Because the men need a hierarchy. Because a man's natural instinct is to be violent. When things don't go your way, violence. When we're talking about violence, violence. It's almost as if you guys are hardwired to self-destruct. Which would make sense because if you are being controlled by the men at the top, they do need you guys to have a short fuse and no emotions. Because if you actually had feelings and emotions and empathy, you probably wouldn't go to war with other men just because another man told you, right? But all your little strings are being pulled by men above you. How does that make you feel? Your whole life is controlled by other men. What a leader. You can't even formulate your own opinions. You let the media tell you, on the left or the right. Then you blame the left or the right, instead of having your own thoughts. Only animals think that violence is normal. And some animals are actually smarter than that, and they move away from territories that are known to be violent. So it seems to be a choice.
Yes. Yes, men are very hierarchical. I just got done talking to a bunch of men on the live. If you guys haven't seen it, you can go check it out on my page. I think it's called like I'm in enemy pub in enemy territory or something like that. But yeah, if you watch that, men love hierarchies. I've never been big on hierarchies personally. Even before I even knew what a hierarchy was, I was never big on somebody telling me what to do. I was never big on, answering the big bro or big, you know what I'm saying? Big brother, like never really been like that. That's one of the reasons why I never really liked gangs. And when I played sports and we played on the team, there was like no leader on the team. Like I never, you know what I mean? Like I always felt like I was good as anybody. And I would listen to coaches and I would respect my fellow players, but like I never, needed, like, where's the leadership on the team? You know what I'm saying? Like I never looked for a leader. I feel like we all should just be doing our part. Always. Like that's just, I've always been. So I don't know personally how that feels to feel the desire for a hierarchy in my friends group. I never believed in a hierarchy. I never felt like I was the lead, the head nigga in charge. I never felt when I was around my other friends that there was a man above me or a boy above me that I was trying to garner their attention. Like I just don't, it's not my thing. It's not my get down. You know what I'm saying? My brother's like that too. It's funny. My brother's just like that. Like he's not, like neither one of us ever jived with that growing up. So it's not hardwired in us. I don't believe. I just believe that when you have a certain type of intellect and understanding, you don't, and I don't want to say intelligence overall, because that doesn't mean that I know a lot of intelligent men who still fall for that trap, but when you have a certain intelligence, type of intelligence, it's harder to get caught up in that, right? I eventually succumb to the, I guess to some extent, the hierarchical belief system and the structure when I subscribed to religion as I got older. Like I got baptized when I was in my 20s. I didn't get baptized as a kid. My mom never forced it on me or nothing like that. I did it in my early 20s, and I shortly there got away from it. You know what I'm saying? But that was probably the only time in my life that I ever was like, oh yeah, God, man, woman, child, kangaroo, manatee, this hierarchical strategy, but now it's just like, I'm like, yeah, no, we're all important. Everybody has a role to play. We should play that role. We should play our position. We should contribute because that's how it should be. Men are definitely conditioned to buy into a hierarchical system. We are conditioned to think that there should be people on the bottom that are less deserving, and there should be people at the top because they work harder. That is social conditioning. That's the only part I disagree with. And also I disagree that words aren't violence. I do think words are violence. Considering the fact that people get bullied online and they unalive themselves often. Also, words can harm people. Words can actually affect people's material world. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I do think words are violence. But in the context that she was using it in, I agree. Like I said earlier, I don't think that when the oppressed say things to the oppressor, I don't think those words are violence at all. I think it only works one way in this context. I think it only works from oppressor to oppressed, to be honest with you.
Let's get this straight. Words online are not violence. I know like your feelings are really hurt, so it feels.
The most hilarious part about your video is that you basically expose yourself in a rapid fire manner. You start off your video with this gaslighting tactic where you basically admit, yeah, we're openly hostile and sexist towards men. So what? At least we're not being physically violent. Okay, keep.
Is that what she said? That's not what I got from what she said.
That same energy when it comes to psychological abuse, because that's exactly what y'all are engaging in. It's not merely just being mean to people online. And the worst part about psychologically abusive women is they don't just do it to men, they do it to each other and children. Not to mention women in general are the heavyweight champions of child abuse, filicide, and infanticide.
Sir. Okay, a couple things. A, you're wrong. When you guys talk about unaliving babies and child abuse, again, I had this discussion the other day. It is all about the rate and not the overall number. I asked a white man the other day online. He said the same exact thing, almost verbatim, because this is one of their talking points. And I said, yeah, rate matters. I was like, rate matters. Pretty much only rate matters. And then he was like, not like acting like he didn't understand what I was saying. And I asked him, because I know that usually white men who think like this are racist. And I said, so who commits the most crime in this country? What demographic of people racially commits the most crime in the country? And he said, white people. And I said, yeah. And then I said, so does that mean white people are the most criminalistic? Does that mean that white people, yeah, I think I asked him that question explicitly. I was like, are white people more criminalistic than everybody else? Which I knew he would say no to, because white people don't ever say that type of stuff. And he said no. And I said, why not? And he said, well, there's more white people. And I said, yeah, exactly. So rate matters, right? If black people if black people get arrested for 30% of the crimes in this country, but we only represent 15% of the people, then that would mean we're overrepresented. If white people get arrested for 40% or 45% of crimes in this country, but they make up 65% of the people in this country, then they're underrepresented. So it would actually look like black people were more criminalistic than white people. Even though I know that's not true. We know that over policing and all that stuff is really the thing. But anyways, just for the argument, you know what I'm saying? That was the point I was trying to make, was like, if you can acknowledge the reason why white people overall being arrested for more crimes doesn't mean that they actually commit more, that they're more criminalistic, then you should be able to clock the fact that women are actually less abusive than men. Because when you look at the numbers, when you look at the rate of abuse between fathers and mothers, or men and women, or whatever the case may be, It's really close. It's like a few percentage points different, right? For what I'm talking about, for the overall number, like the amount of cases of abuse. You see what I'm saying? But when you break that down, like so if you said per 1,000 interactions that a mother has with a child, right? I'm just making up the rate off the top. It's not real. I'm just saying for every 1,000 interactions a mother has with a child, there is a one child gets abused, right? And I'm not even saying like that's the rate, right? Okay, cool. But for men, it's like for every 1,000 interactions with the child, 5 kids get abused. The rate of abuse that men are responsible for versus the rate of abuse that women are responsible for, it's completely different. Men abuse children significantly more than women do per capita, but women spend way more time with children. They're 85% of the time they're the custodial parents, and they're charged with the responsibility of taking care of the kids the vast majority of the time. So when you look at it through that lens, the rate of comparatively, the rate of abuse is actually very low when it comes to women. That's first and foremost. Secondly, this goober, if you asked him the same question, right? Or I'm sorry, if you asked him this question, I'm going to ask, which I've asked many of these dudes when they have this conversation, he will give you the same answer that 99% of people would if they're being honest, if not 100% of people. If you had a child, whatever, pick an age between the ages of 5 and 10, and you had to leave that child with another individual for whatever reason, you had to, there was no way around it, and you had 2 people to choose from, both of them strangers, one a man, one a woman, roughly the same age, 40 years old, let's say. You got a 40-year-old man, I don't care what race he is, and you have a 40-year-old woman, I don't care what race she is, and you have a small child, I don't care what gender they are, right? And you have to leave them with one of those individuals. Who do you feel more confident in to leave your child with? And almost, if they're being honest, 100% of them would say the woman. But if not, 99.9% of them are going to say women, right? Why is that? If women are the champions of child abuse and the champions of unaliving little children and whatnot, then why do men constantly give the responsibility of raising the children to mothers? That's irresponsible of men then, right? So basically, the case you're making is that men are irresponsible and men don't actually protect children, because women are far more like, based on what you're saying, that mothers are far more likely to abuse and or unalive their kids. Let's leave aside the fact that the women who unalive children oftentimes are suffering from postpartum depression. We're not even going to get into that, right? But yeah, let's just say that is the point you're trying to make. Then you're cooked. You're proven actually then men are just as culpable in all of this, because we are allowing the children to be around abusers. Think about it. Why would you let your child be around a group of people who you feel is significantly more abusive than you would be to your child? You're not any better. So you're not protecting your child either. Right? I'm not understanding.
I mean, is it any wonder that single mothers raise the most violent criminals overall? And before you try to misrepresent the stats,
single mothers don't raise the most violent criminals overall. That is made up. It's not a real stat. Cite it. Cite your source.
I'm saying that the majority of violent criminals are raised by single mothers, not the majority of single mothers raise violent criminals.
Again, that's wrong. Both are wrong. Violent criminals are raised by 2 parents. The vast majority of them. The vast majority of serial unalivers, 2 parents. The most prolific serial unalivers, 2 parents. And when you talk about the most violent, again, it sounds like he got that sadly, from black men. Because black men, right, we are less likely to have our fathers around. We still have dads, most of us do, but we are less likely to have a father figure or a father around. Black men are, not white men. Most white babies are born to 2 parents married. Most white babies are. Most white babies are. Most black babies are not. So he's getting this, and this is what I be talking about from black men, how we say shit and then idiots and racist white people oftentimes pick it up and they repeat the same thing. But I think that's where he's getting this from, because the first people I heard say that was black people. Now everybody's saying that, right? All the misogynists are saying it. White men and black men are both saying that. But I think that is something that he got from black men, and that's sad.
Because I know women like this like to misquote people like that. Then you bring up violence against women by men, and that men also commit violence against men. But here's the thing, when men are violent towards other men, it's usually random. It's not personal, it's just two men having an argument and one gets violent. Women, however, when they experience violent crime, are experiencing violent crimes from people they already know.
Men they already know.
These are men that more often than not, y'all choose to associate with.
No. It's their fathers. What are you talking about? It's their fathers. Their fathers, number one. That's number one. Most likely. The father. They don't choose the men that they associate with. That's crazy. You're wrong again. You're wrong. He's wrong.
Now, they may have started off nice and sweet at first, but at the same time, y'all still choose to associate after the red flag starts showing. More.
You mean like after they have babies with the man and they have to, co-parent with him and whatnot? What do you want her to do? What do you want her to do? You just said, you said, oh yeah, he's sweet at first. Okay, cool. So he lied. He tricked her. That shit happens.
Now, they may have started off nice and sweet at first, but at the same time, y'all still choose to associate after the red flag starts showing. More importantly, when you have such an openly hostile attitude towards men, no self-respecting or decent man is going to want to be around you to begin with. So what's left? All the snakes.
Only self-respecting and decent men want to be around women who acknowledge the real world violence that women experience at the hands of men. Only the best men. The worst men will ignore that and do what you're doing. You belong in the worst tier of men. The best tier of men will go, no, I understand. Oh, no, I totally understand. She's right. No, the women are right. No, they have a legitimate right. Men have been very, very destructive and very harmful to everybody. That's the best men acknowledge that.
Oil salesmen who are willing to bullshit their way into your inner circle and gain your trust. Why do you think there are so many male feminists who end up getting exposed for being predators? And another key difference between men who commit violent crimes against other men and men who commit violent crimes against women is that other violent criminals don't put up with that in prison. You can literally ask anybody who's been to prison or has worked at a prison. If you have done anything to women and children, you are going to be at the bottom of the pecking order.
Not true. Also, those dudes that be in there beating up on the men who get convicted of the crime or who are in jail, for the crime, for abusing children and women, the men who be killing them, they be abusers too. They be beating up on women too. They just didn't get arrested for it. It's a difference to have a jacket that, that says that that's on your jacket, right? That paperwork, that's different, right? They use that as an excuse to victimize those men. I've never thought the whole jail, like beating up and unaliving like P3DOs is like some like honor code. I've never thought that about prison, because a lot of those men, they don't do that to the rapist in prison. The rapists in prison get to keep raping men all the time. Go look up what's his name? Johnson, whatever Johnson, the one that the booty burglar. Go look up the booty burglar. He out, he free. He was in jail for a long time. He talked about all the men he raped. So yeah, no, you're wrong. They don't give a fuck about that. They don't care about SA. They don't give a fuck about that shit. They use that shit to justify their violence. That's all it is.
Hell, prisoners don't even put up with other inmates catcalling female COs. Of course, the most laughable part of your video is where you talk about how men only want to talk about violent crimes when it comes to black on black crime. It's like you're completely aware of the concept of systemic bias only when it fits your political narrative. When it comes time to recognize just how soft the justice system is on female criminals across the board, you don't want to talk about it. You want to downplay it. Police are far less likely to arrest women for the same things they would easily arrest a man for.
That's not the fault of women. Even if that's the case, that is a system that men have built, to her point. So men are still the problem. If men aren't arresting the women because they're so misogynistic that they don't think women can be violent, which that's what misogynists think, then that is a part of the system that men built. That's not the woman's fault. She didn't do anything.
Despite the fact that 1 out of 6 hetero men report being the victim of domestic violence at some point in their life, they never go to the police.
It is 1 out of 6 men. Men be DVing other men, bro. It's men the majority of the time, even in those cases. Just so we're clear, it's not 1 out of 6 have reported it from a woman. It's just 1 out of 6 have reported it. Y'all don't never read the full study. It's not 1 out of 6 has reported a woman has DV'd him. That's not what that is. It's what percentage of men have been DV'd. That's it. That's all it is. That's all it is.
About it. Why? Because the police are more likely to arrest the man than the woman, even if the man is the victim. All the woman has to do is make up a lie and say, well, he was hitting me, and they're going to take her side of the story. Women are significantly less likely to be arrested even when they commit the same crimes as men. Do you think the courts are any better in the rare occasion they do get arrested and charged? Courts are constantly dropping charges against women left and right unless they're a repeat offender. I mean, is it any wonder when it comes to domestic violence, lesbians have the highest reported rate? Now this...
Interesting. I love that he said that. You can always tell these dudes have never read any of these studies.
Oh, you want to talk about DV rates among lesbians? Okay, let's talk about it. This is classic patriarchy playbook. Whenever women talk about male violence, they scramble to find any statistic to distract or discredit them. But what he actually just did was perfectly prove my point about male violence while thinking he was clever. When men hysterically screech, but lesbians have higher domestic violence rates, what they're usually referring to is this CDC study. This is the NISVS study, and it did show that lesbians have the highest rates of lifetime DV. What men conveniently leave out is that sexual orientation was based on the respondent's identity at the time of the survey. And while lesbians reported the highest rates of lifetime DV, 72% of them reported only male perpetrators. 74% of bisexual women had only male perpetrators. For heterosexual women, that rose to 89%. So when women report higher rates of DV, it's not because their relationships with women are violent. It's because they experienced violence from men before they were in a same-sex relationship. So this study that all the manosphere bros are quoting to say that lesbians have the highest rate of DV, they are literally citing a study that proves men are the primary perpetrators of DV across all sexual orientations. I know you thought you were making a point, and while the patriarchy thanks you for your service, you might want to check the methodology of a research study before you try making a point. I know you don't know what methodology means, but you played yourself, and if there's any other studies you want me to explain to you, I'm happy to do so.
Boom. They never read the study. If they read the study, which I've read several times, because every time they do this, I've literally had to go on my lives, stop the live, pull up the study, and read to them this exact thing that she just read, that she just showed them. I've done that several times. They still just go around repeating the same stupid shit because it's not about that. They literally just cherry pick data and misrepresent it all the time. That's their whole point. That's all they can do. They can never actually substantiate any of these claims scientifically, ever. They can never substantiate them scientifically. And that's the same thing, like I said, for the 1 in 6 men, it's the same thing. The vast majority of those men will report, oh, I was DV'd by a man. Not in a it could be your father. It's a man, though. You got beat up in your house by a man. That's domestic violence too. It's that it wasn't just with some woman. 1 out of 6 men have not been assaulted by a woman in a relationship. Y'all got to stop fucking lying.
Isn't to say that lesbians are inherently more violent than hetero men. There are likely other factors at play here. 1, women are more likely to recognize when they are in an abusive relationship.
He's just making, mind you, I already showed you the study. So now he is literally just making up shit off the top of his head. Everything he's about to say from this moment forward is just shit he's just pulling out of his ass. He's just making it up.
And 2, they are more likely to speak out and report it. So when we go back to 1 out of 6 men reporting that they have been the victim of domestic violence in a previous relationship, that number is likely even higher.
Men are way more, to me, men are more likely to report anything, because we know we have the support of the system behind us. Women are less likely to report it per capita. Again, per capita, women are far less likely to report it. I'm not going to even hold you. Women are far less likely to report it, because I think the majority of women have suffered some form of DV, some form of SA. Like, shit never goes reported. The vast majority of men, not the same.
It's just that most men don't realize when they're being abused. If that number was 50% higher, the rate of domestic violence between hetero men and hetero women would be about equal.
Just making up stuff. He's literally just making up stuff.
But the biggest piece of irony is when you start bringing up the history of warfare and how men will go off to fight for rich men. You do realize it's been proven multiple times that female rulers statistically are 20 to 40% more likely to be warmongers than men, right?
Yeah. Again, you don't know what you're talking about. But in that, when you guys try to bring up the few times that women were rulers or whatever the case may be, that is still in a patriarchal system. That's like Obama was president and Obama dropped so many bombs that he ran out of bombs. He bombed the shit out of the world when he was president. Bombed the shit out of the world, right? Because he was president and resided over a fascist neo-Christian country that is called the United States of America. That is a war, that our whole economy is rooted in war and warfare. We are a war machine. And you think he was going to stop that, even though he's a black man? No. He kept that party going. So it doesn't matter. It's not like Obama, left to his own devices, was out here just bombing every country. That's not what happened. If he was the type of president that would have stopped the military industrial complex, he wouldn't have been president. They wouldn't have allowed him to get elected. They would have put every single dollar, red cent against him. But they knew he wouldn't upset that apple cart. So they said, yeah, cool. We get a black face, you know what I'm saying, to push our white hegemonic ideals across the world. And he did it. But I would never sit here and be like, black people, when studies show that when black people are president, we are just as violent. Like, bro, we still exist. You don't know what we would be like if we didn't have to still exist in a racist, fascist society. You have no idea what black people would be like. You have no fucking clue.
Queen Victoria of England, for example, led the British Empire when they were colonizing Africa and India and brutally suppressing the indigenous populations. It was under her rule that the British started the Opium Wars in China, which at the time were the biggest and bloodiest wars ever fought in human history. And the only counter-argument that women seem to be able to come up with when you present these facts is that, well, there's not as many female rulers throughout history, which is irrelevant. The sample size we do have indicates that women are far more likely to be warmongers. And
now he understands per capita. Now he gets per capita, even though his stats are still not true. Now he gets per capita. Now he understands it. Isn't that interesting?
Yet far less likely to this day to actually join the military and lead people directly on the battlefield. In a nutshell, all you're trying to do is keep the spotlight on the wrongs of men so you never have to address the wrongs of women.
Oh, I'm sorry. Also wanted to bring up the fact that when women are leaders, they are challenged way more by the men around them. So they essentially have to become quote unquote warmongers to protect themselves. If women show weakness, same way if a black person shows weakness, if a minority of any sort really shows any weakness in a racist, patriarchal, capitalistic society, they get ousted. They get their chopped off. So you got to be strong as fuck. You got to be 10 times crazier than like, it's like when black police officers when black police officers have white partners, they go 10 times harder. Even Q said it, black police showing out for the white cops. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that is what happens often when minorities get into positions of power. They turn into Steven from Django. They even wilder than their white slave masters. That doesn't prove anything. That just proves that being a victim of a system could drive you crazy and make you do things that you wouldn't normally do.
I mean, this reminds me of this last election when people like me would draw attention to the fact that Kamala Harris was a very corrupt politician and had a very problematic past regarding California's criminal justice system.
No, she didn't.
And the only response that people could come up with is tell you you're sexist and play the whataboutism game because Donald Trump did this and that. I didn't vote for either of those candidates, so pointing out that Trump has done wrong is not going to make me ignore the fact that Kamala is no saint.
Kamala.
The same thing applies in this scenario. Two wrongs do not make a right. Women should also take responsibility.
So is this about that if women aren't perfect, then we have to put them on the same level as men? Because that's a dumbass fucking argument. That's literally the definition of a false equivalency. So let's use Kamala and Trump. Fine. Kamala was a great DA, and she was elected several times in the state of California. She did not have a problematic history. She didn't. She wasn't perfect. But did she have what I would deem to be a marred, problematic history? No, absolutely not. Gavin Newsom is dirtier. Sorry. Gavin Newsom is dirtier than Kamala. Gavin Newsom has a more checkered past than Kamala. Right? But now, if we're comparing her to Trump, it's no comparison. Personally and professionally, Trump is corrupt. In his personal life, he's corrupt. In his professional life, he's corrupt. In his political life, he's corrupt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not even comparable. It's not comparable. Pay for play, cheating on his taxes, cheating on his wife. It's not close. Going bankrupt 7 times or whatever, getting sued by the American government twice and losing for racist practices in his facilities and his establishments. Yeah, not even close. Kamala never got sued for being racist. She never got sued for being racist. And if she did, she definitely wouldn't have lost. I'm sorry, she definitely wouldn't have lost. So there's that. But yeah, there's bringing up Kamala and bringing up Trump in this scenario that told me everything I need to know about this dim-witted gentleman here. But yeah, at the end of the day, you guys don't have a leg to stand on. And everything that lady said is correct. And you're just mad because you don't want things to get better, especially as a white man. But generally speaking, men don't want things to get better. So you got to keep making up false equivalencies and acting like if women say anything about men, then it's like, oh, they're sexist too. Like, they're not. Women aren't as violent. 98% of violence is committed by men in the world. Men are responsible for 90% of rapes. Men are responsible for the vast majority of thefts. Men are responsible for the vast majority of unalivings on battlefields and the causes of those wars to begin with and skirmishes. Like, it's not even close, fam. It's over. We don't have a leg to stand on.